Recording in progress.
Good evening, everybody. I ask everybody, please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. With that, I'd like to call to order the January 15th, 2025, actually, Holly, would you like to call to order? I just realized we were doing a reorganization meeting, so. Yes, for all those in attendance, this reorganization meeting, which I asked to our leader.
The January 2025 meeting of the Communications Committee. First order of business is election of officers. Do I have a motion for chairman of the Communications Committee for 2025?
I move Kevin be nominated as chair.
Terry has made a motion to nominate Kevin Shelley for chairman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? Oh,
Motion seconded.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Kevin. You are chairman for the 2025 year of the Communications Committee. I will now turn it over to you for election of vice chairman.
Holly, and thank you, everybody, as well, for putting your trust in me again in another year. Again, it's a joint effort, and I truly appreciate everybody's input and ideas, and I look forward to working with everybody again this year. That said, we do have nominations for vice chairman. Do we have any nominations for vice chairman of the 2025 Communications Committee?
I nominate John to be vice chair.
Don, recognized as nomination. Don Piso. Any other nominations? Seeing none, do we have a second for John Del Piso?
A second.
John, I'm saying your last name correctly? Del Piso, okay, thank you. All in favor of John Del Piso serving as the 2025 Vice Chairman of the Communications Committee, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations, John, and thank you for stepping up to serve that Vice Chairman role as well. Our next order is election of a secretary. Do we have any nominations of secretary?
I nominate Jessica.
Jessica, thank you. Do we have any other nominations for secretary? We're looking at Jess to see if she'll say somebody else. Okay. Do we have a second for Jessica to be secretary of the Communications Committee?
I'll second.
Thank you, Harry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Jessica, thank you so much. And I also wanted to take a moment to just recognize one more time Jean Campbell, our previous vice chair, to thank her for her years of service. And thank you to John for your years as secretary as well. You did a great job with that too. All right, that said, our next order of business is to approve the minutes for the November 2024 meeting. We did not have a December meeting last year, but we did have our minutes from 2024, which John laid out. Is there any questions or changes to our minutes? Seeing none, do we have a motion to appoint the minutes as presented?
I move.
And anybody, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Terry, thank you. All in favor of approving the November 2024 Communications Committee meeting minutes indicate saying aye, please.
Aye.
All opposed? Yes, have it. Thank you very much. All right, our next order of business is call for public discussion and visitor comments. At this point, we offer anybody an opportunity to go on record, offer any questions, any comments, as well as members of the committee as well. And I open that discussion now. I would like to add one comment. I would like to recognize Harry. Harry, thank you very much for volunteering to serve on the Communications Committee. We look forward to hearing your ideas and your input, and we're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay.
Comment.
Yes.
My name is Lori Yamashita. I'm 470 Wexford Circle. I've been a Cheswick resident very happily since 1986. And I'm from small town Illinois. And what I really love about the Harleysville area is the open space, the bike trails, and just the community feel. So I really, really love it here. I met this person here, Betty, from the neighborhood when she told me about the development going next to Cheswick. And that's the development of Durstein Farm. So this is my first communications meeting, as you probably all know. Is it appropriate to comment on this kind of item here, or is it not?
What we do as a committee is we essentially are a recommendation to the board for ideas. Now, actually have coincidentally, because we're discussing it tonight, a copy of our ordinance, which I can get to you as well here.
Okay.
But what our ordinance specifically specifies is that we kind of come up with any kind of ideas that we can to better communication. So for example, for a property like that, or just say any property, we would say, in the township, let's say something comes out. Our goal is to make sure that we can get as much input from residents around there as possible, you know, whether your best means of communication and to alert you, you know, we've explored ideas. How can we alert residents as to what's happening in the township so that we can essentially have your feedback? That might be through email. We recognize that certain people might do better with social media. Others may do better just simply signage. So we have tried to explore as many different possibilities as we have. But in answer to your question, what we do is we just try to get recommendations of the best way to facilitate communication between its residents and the township. By all means, you're welcome to give some ideas of how it might be better to alert of things like that, or maybe suggestions on how you can reach the township better. We have email, you know, phone calls, in person, but any other ideas, things that we've discussed in the past, and I'll let any other member here, you know, communicate this as well, as we've had ideas of open houses, you know, anything we can do to communicate. So that's really our primary purpose. We're welcome to listen, but we can't make any action here and whatnot, but we can definitely take into what you say and discuss, okay, well, how, this is what residents are concerns, what can we do and where do we find ourselves in this? Hopefully that sums it up.
Thank you, Kevin, for
Absolutely.
explaining that. No, I think it's a great committee, and I think one of the things I really love is the newsletter that comes out. And, you know, the way it's written, it's bright, it's colorful, it's very attractive, and, you know, I read here, township receives environmental stewardship. Now, isn't that cool? You know, and then I recently learned that there's a parks committee, you know, and the board, and so I went online to kind of educate myself, but in terms of what's a good way, I think all of the things you mentioned are certainly effective, and you've got to appeal to all the different generations and folks that have been here long term and not. And
Hey, Lauren,
yes,
you obviously had the newsletter. Right? You said you went online. Is that to the township website or?
correct. I recently, well, about a year ago, looked at that and I said, oh, there's a board of supervisors, and I saw the meeting times. Wow, 7:30 a.m. is going to be difficult to get into. And then I saw the different committees and different boards. And then I thought, like, well, you know, the Parks Commission with this great environmental reputation that this area has, you know, I would like to hear from the Parks Commission on the development and zoning and proposals. You know, I heard Montgomery County, thanks, Kevin.
There's copies of our.
You know, Montgomery County Planning Commission, you know, they gave an excellent report about their review looking for post development. 488 Harleysville Pike, and you know, the proposal includes rerouting entrance. And I don't want to go forward with that, but I think, Kevin, the fact that I moved into Cheswick in 1986 and nobody knocked on my door or sent me, hey, this is Harleysville. These are the things you have. And I've been happy, all the developments, like, I love the trails connecting the parks and the schools. But as a new resident, you know, I didn't really hear anything. And nowadays, people stay indoors more. They look at more social media. My guess is you gotta reach out.
So besides the newsletter and the website, are you getting information from the township via any of the other communication channels? The instant contact, the electronic newsletter, the
I gotta write this down.
Montgomery County.
You said you received a newsletter? Someone, if they can grab it on the way out, and all of the information is in there, there's QR codes to take you directly to everything.
And actually, I appreciate what John was saying. One of the things I circled when you wrote, what you spoke about was online. One of the things that we have all recently discussed, and Harry is joining us as well here, but we have discussed at length, how are people receiving our information? So we don't know, even when we send out a survey, we don't necessarily know if we're reaching all the channels. So if we send a survey via email, we might be missing a contingent that relies on telephones, et cetera. So it is important for us to hear how you get your information. What is the best thing? And that's really what we are trying to do. We appreciate the new residents. And first of all, I want to give credit to the newsletter. Holly has been doing the newsletter for years, well before I was served in any capacity here, and has done a great job with that. And Grace has recently helped her with that as well. And we think it's superb. We have a lot of feedback that that is a great way to give people information. And it's a great thing that people get in the mail. So we actually recently in our latest one included our welcome letter that we put together based upon research. What kind of information would new residents have? So I'm glad to hear that as well, because when you come into this township, we want people to know what we have to offer.
No, I'm getting this in the mail, so that is terrific.
All the way
To your point,
have
Holly,
that service there.
yeah, all the addresses, all the
You know.
pictures are in there.
Barcodes,
I'm a baby boomer, so one of the things I would have kind of liked better now is, you know, is there any kind of open house where people can just come and mingle? I personally get a lot of info that way, and I guess otherwise you don't know what your questions are till you know what it is. And I'm probably a little bit slower to absorb it through reading than I would face to face where there's a whole bunch of people say, hey, that's cool, that's almost my own personal thing. I think younger generations are definitely social media. And when they move fast, that's the really impressive thing, is the speed of communication and the breadth and depth of the network. But I think it's great.
Lori,
Keep it up.
Lori, how did, you mentioned this other development, how did you first find out or hear about this development that you need?
That's a great question there, John. The old fashioned way, somebody put a little flyer in my mailbox. Said, hey, meet in the. And then we were all within walking distance. And we sat in the pavilion and met our neighbors. So, and since then Betty does have a Facebook page. She's got a text chain that she sends out to people that are interested, text, email. Please jump in, Betty.
Yeah.
She's
Betty, let's ask you the same question. How did you first find out?
I was just, by the grace of God, I was out in my driveway and a gentleman that lives somewhere in the development, I'm not even sure where, I've never seen him again. Pulled up to my mailbox as I was getting in my car and said, do you live here? Do you know that property in back of you is getting sold? And I said, I knew it was for sale, but I didn't know it was sold. And he said, well, it's going up for development. And he said, I was paying my taxes and I overheard someone. And he said that that's where I really got information. So then I called the realtor that I know, which happens to be Terry Durstein, one of the relatives of Dursteins. And he wasn't aware of what was going on either. But push comes to shove, I called the township building and I talked to Mike Buki and things kind of got rolling that way. If it wasn't for that conversation, I still, you know, I mean, I would know now more or less, but I wouldn't have come to the township meet, like, I only come to the township meetings for the board of supervisors and the planning commission. I've been here 34 years and I fought the Walmart, I fought the McDonald's, you know, I fought all of the developments here, the one across from Harleysville Insurance that Nationwide happened to give up and then moved out. A lot of disappointment with a lot of the developments. The chairman that used to be on the board, our supervisors actually signed the green land, or the green deal, you know, and he was the one that actually started the whole thing how many years ago? And then I just saw the Board of Supervisors, I don't want to say rolling into the whole development phase, but basically it's been a chain of developments. Has to be over 30
So-
something developments.
So during the sale, there's probably not much the township or the communication committee to communicate, right?
Correct, right.
Prior to the sale, right? I mean,
Right.
it's just not gonna happen, right?
Yeah,
But once it starts, do you find information about what is happening
No.
either online or I know that
the
I
only
think
thing
it's in
I
the
see,
newsletter, there's a list of,
that's the only time I see it.
okay,
That's the only time, and by then it's already rolled.
And
What up? Yeah.
The reason that you didn't see it anywhere is because the township can only do what we get in for submission, right? People say things all day long, every day. Oh, I heard so-and-so's buying this, so-and-so's buying that, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that, why didn't they do this, why didn't they do that? Right, the township isn't going to go out and start calling people and saying, have you bought this land? So someone could have bought it, and we're down the line, developers are going to develop it. But in the end, we can't do anything until we get a full-fledged plan for that developer. Right, so then that's when the process starts for us.
And I think,
The whole thing's got pushed back to that developer saying, you can't do what you wanna do here. The other thing is too, open space requires, if those people who own that property wanted to permanently preserve that land, there is a requirement of 10 acres.
This is
Mr. Undersign's acres was 9,
9.9.
and that's a county thing and a state thing.
I think,
And like, if you were to sell your house, would, we don't know you're selling your house, those people who owned that home, it was their private land.
so I think,
So-
if I can, I think both John and you were getting to the same thing that I was just gonna do, and correct me if this is not where you're going, but in summary, I think our goal as a communication is, we know that we have a website that has a list, as John said, these are the things that are on our website. There's always gonna be rumors and things going around, don't worry. But our job as a community is say, okay, we have these on our website. Do people know that this is on our website? How do we get people aware that this is on our website? And how can we go from there? And that's really our objective. And so, like you said that you got it from the newsletter, that's immediately what I wrote down. We love this feedback. And I mean, I'm sure the rest of the committee, we've talked about this. We come in, we say, are people getting it this way? How are people finding it? And this is a great example. So, mhm.
If we could have, do you have a Facebook page or anything like
We
that?
do, and these are some of the things, so I think the packet I gave you should have, is this a
Okay,
packet I grabbed at the beginning?
Chips, communication, departments, and theirs is pretty intense as far as very detailed and how many, if you want to contact, and if you have any concerns, you have any complaints. I'm just thinking, and without looking at your website, so I apologize, if, as long as we have an area where people can go directly to this site to see what the newest interests are as far as development. This newsletter comes out, and by the time anybody even sees it, gets it, stakes it, maybe it's junk mail,
It's
or even
sometimes
looks
meant to
at it,
be.
they don't know what's going on. The whole neighborhood did not know this town, this land.
so it sounds like you are not aware of the constant contact channel for communication, right? You don't get the electronic.
One thing we made sure we could do is that people.
Not aware of
Meetings.
the Facebook, the social media aspects. I mean, there's other channels, so what would help us as a communication community is how do we make sure that all of this, the citizens, the residents, know about these other channels that are a little bit more electronic, but they're a little bit more immediate also. You're not waiting 6 months for a newsletter to come out. So how do we reach folks like you to let you know that you can sign up for these newsletters, you can sign up for these announcements? There's it sounds like you may not be aware of the resident portal for submitting. I mean, a lot of the electronic stuff, Facebook is one way. It's information being pushed to you. There is a portal where you can submit questions, requests,
That was
comments in.
One of the first things we put together was a portal, so we could get alerts and stuff, and which eventually led very recently to text messages. That's what our goal has been to try, so.
You, your first or second meeting, I know you were really enthusiastic on trying to get that
Right,
out there,
and
but we're missing that step, like.
you mentioned fly,
I'm still not heard it, but it hasn't even been in my brain to even know that that's.
and some of the things we tried today too, flyers you mentioned, we have actually had that as feedback a great way, so in our parks and you know, there's signage where we have a QR code that can bring you right to the portal, because we figure, okay, if somebody's going by. We don't have the means to get it on everybody's door, but we're trying to figure out as much. We reached out to businesses to have signs up there if anybody wants to participate, so people can be going shopping and say, oh, look at this, let me get involved in the township. If you have this packet too, but I just wanted to mention some of the things that we are working on actively is a new resident guide for somebody who might be new to the township to go online and exactly what you said, we have all this stuff. And we're not really changing anything. But what we want to do is say, hey, these are the most requested things that we have from new residents. So did you know we can click this? Did you know you can click this? Here's where you can find out new projects. Here's where you can get text alerts. And also I wanted to mention one more thing in the back. One of the first things we worked on is even this, just letting people know what's in our township. Because we found out by surveys and talking, some of the residential facilities didn't know that we had a community center. And they said, oh, we didn't know that. We were going to tell them, no, over here. But we also have, and this might answer some of the recent projects and things that we have been discussing, how we can do it. I know some of these things are hosting town, because that's other ways. So I'm glad you mentioned that as well. And that's really, I think, our biggest thing is to get that information. How can we reach you? This is a wealth of things.
Actually list a couple of different sites so people can actually be aware of it as they're driving through town.
We discussed that on some of the boards, I think.
I don't know, do you realize there's times on either end of the town as you drive in, the township?
Yeah, but I don't see any of the information that I need on. You know, it's either have a nice holiday or, you know, enjoy whatever, but I don't really see contacts. Is there?
We can see what it.
Yes, it does, but we do push to chuck that on when they don't have.
And even in schools, you could even put it on some of the information for the elementary schools. As the kids are starting school and new parents have no idea where to even go to. I think that would be a very good idea as well. I don't know, a lot of the people that know about the development now are because of the flyers. Because on the
I'm sorry,
flyer, I
if I can
actually
ask,
have
if
the
I-
Facebook
Who,
page.
do you know who sent the flyer, who printed and sent the flyer? Was it, I don't need a specific name. Okay,
And duplicated on myself, and then went to everybody in the neighborhood, and then some. The second time around, this has been going on probably like 4 years now, redevelopers, so. And then Lori assisted me the last time, and also another neighbor with the actual proper printing and the whole bit, and then we all did the distribution around the area. But on that flyer, it'll give you Betty Duddy Cheswick@gmail.com. It'll give you Cheswick updates to look for on Facebook. And then I still go on Facebook and still alert them to look there, even on regular Facebook, look on Cheswick. updates because something's going on. So I'm always active with trying to figure out, and then I have the list of private emails because a lot of people don't use social media. But if you had some way of knowing how people communicate, if it's majority of the younger people, then you know social media will be, or the elementary schools or something like that, you know, that's gonna be your target. There are still a lot of older people in this area that are very concerned with the land being taken up. And
Excuse me,
So, yeah.
I think, I have a comment, I guess, and a suggestion. And I think your question is, how do you get the word out and how do we learn? You're talking to two baby boomers, okay? I think one idea or suggestion, you've got a quick list of contacts here. If I were you, I would go to this committee, these groups. I would go to the Girl Scouts. I would go to the community center. You want to reach out to as many different groups. Here, you've already got established. Ask them. Contact the leader and say, hey, you know about this resident portal. If it's been in the newsletter, I've never seen it. If I saw it, I didn't know it was anything to use it, but that's terrific.
This is good
No,
information.
but that is terrific. Then I could ask the question instead of searching through Lower South. Like I looked at the calendar and I kind of did it myself to what I'm interested in. But you already have these established groups, the Watershed, the Heckler's Pine, you know, the senior center, the senior center. Ask them. Go and then you can get a cross section of the South. And you've got a leader already. You've got a group. You just have to reach out and say, oh, we're doing this group. These guys are clueless. These guys, you know, don't do any social media. They want snail mail. But I think the common theme, in my opinion, is everybody's pressed for time. I don't read like I used to. I glance over, I delete quickly. I admire your goal and
But you seem to be, both of you seem to be very into what, very targeted.
no, I'm saying I learned of this development because of fire. I think my comment on the Salford meetings are, I know the video, but the minutes don't come out until the next meeting, not approved. So by the time that comes out and you get the minutes, well, shoot, I didn't know all this stuff was happening. And I'm not going to sit through and watch a video Zoom just in case something interesting pops in. So to me, for general things, the things I would be concerned about are the extension of Meeting House Road. Putting in a proposed new road less than 250 feet from the Cheswick development. Through our research, we understand the DOT. I understand one of the things, the solutions they have for that proposal would be widen 113 and put in 2 left turn lanes, one into the new proposed development, one into Cheswick. That's gonna be a nightmare. Anyone that's drives around there, the thing of construction and more traffic for 26 townhouses, I think is crazy. I don't know that the new development concerns that many people, but the new roads, oh, the new stormwater construction, yes. Rerouting, relocating utility poles. What impacts the most people is what I shoot for first. And I would go a broad reach to as many of the existing committees. Get one leader, maybe not the formal leader, but just ask them, you guys need data. And how many people attend these meetings?
We don't have good attendance. We don't have any attendance. And you know, like, just to if some of the things I wrote down, just even from what you're saying, Betty, is flyer, home associations. One thing we're doing is we are communicating with residential facilities, because we found out that that's an easy way where we can say we have a meeting and they can state, some of them are sending emails out to, you know, all the people live there. Other things we could do is, you gave me an idea, we could reach out to neighbors, like neighbors and associations. You can let your neighborhood associations know that there's a website, and then maybe tell people to, like, we can't do that, but we can say is, if you have a neighbor group on a social media, let them know, tell them we have this, you know, so we can kind of encourage that. But again, our big thing is, we cannot, dictate what can be done and whatnot, but we can channel those facilities to make it easier to get your concerns to the right people or and vice versa.
If you add an extra bullet point
Mhm.
of what is on the agenda for each meeting. The important meetings, it could be important for anybody at any of these associate, or these meetings that we have, committees. So I can't even pick 3 of them to do, but if you can just, I know the agendas don't come out until sometimes the day before the meetings, which is kind of a drag, but if there was a way to be able to shortcut it, be able to bullet point it, be able to put it somewhere where people are going to be able to refer to, whether it be the beginning of the portal, or on Facebook, or on whatever it is that we have. For each month, people will start paying attention, because some of these issues can be addressed where they happen. And people are finding out too late, and people are getting very disgusted, and people aren't gonna come to the meetings, and people aren't even gonna try to fight it, because they figured it's already a done.
And that's our goal, is to get information as soon as it's available to the township, as quickly as we can to its residents, so that we can have information.
And the township website changed.
Yes, it is in the middle of changing.
Already had to ask Patty how to maneuver it a couple times.
Okay,
And I know the people that I know in my circle for development already had a hard enough time trying to do the other website. This one is not even self-explanatory. You have to look for the little icon to see if there's even an agenda. They wouldn't even know what that is. So I'm not sure if that was a big improvement or not, because if not, that's gonna be really more confusion for them, and they're gonna get less knowledge, and then they're gonna get disgusted, and they're not.
Just one other, that is I take community college, Monaco courses. The young people do learn everything on YouTube. I don't know if you've considered that, but even if you had a new resident YouTube, 10 minutes, hey, do you know the resident portal? And you show that, like something where you were old, just, and it really is, as a brief things you could do, just an introduction, just. I would love to see
we had a meeting not long ago where we had all viewed different YouTube things from different townships, and some were great, and we were like, well, that one was a little too long, but yeah, something along those lines are absolutely things that we're trying to do as well.
you
We really appreciate it, and I know I'm speaking really for it. This is something that in all our meetings in the past, we always say is we want to know the results are happening. We're currently, if you see our agenda, trying to have meetings at facilities, so we can have resident input. So I thank you for all this feedback. These are things, some of these things that you said, we are working on ways that we can do, things that we can do. You gave me other ideas as well.
Just develop this committee. Will show you that how much this township needs this committee. So it's just a matter of how to, follow through with it, because if there's any little block at wall, you're gonna be just futile, with your time and your efforts and your consideration. I mean, we really appreciate.
Appreciate that. I think
Yeah.
one good, easy start to recommend, and you guys say, let your groups know we have a communications committee, and we'll make sure we get you the constant contact information, as well as the residential alert. These were one of the first things that we did. We even researched YouTube. We broke it down, the prices, different ways we can do it. And that's one thing we brought to the board. We said, here's YouTube, here's how we can make it happen.
Right.
We figured it, we can click it, there's no storage space for us. That's the kind of work that we have done to try to say, okay, what can we do? The residential request portal is a wonderful tool, and I don't think it's utilized as much as it can be, really. It's a way that can relieve some of our staff too. So, we do get phone calls, and our staff is wonderful. They'll answer calls, they'll answer emails, whatever works best for people. But with this, you can pull something out and they might say, oh, look, they're actually working on this incident right here already, and it's active. So that saves somebody time. It also gives you answers as a resident, and rest assured, but you can put alerts there, everything from snow to violations. We get them, unfortunately. Hey, I see my neighbors doing this, but it's a way that somebody can feel comfortable to do something. We have pothole reports on there. We have down wires, down trees. I know. Yeah, some people can report everything from dead animals, and we did this by researching with talking to other townships. We assign people, okay, you reach out to this township, which is similar to us. What kind of things do we have? And talking to our staff, what are the most common things we get? And I mean, I know we're gonna take this and probably definitely execute some ideas with this. It's what we do, so I appreciate that. Mhm.
You know, most people from all different walks of life. Background and, you know, again, we're all, if you had something you wanted to run past, you know, just whether it's an idea or a concept, or a model of something, I'd bring it there. I'd make friends. I would make friends with everyone. I think we're very successful reaching so much progress.
These are great ideas, and I really appreciate your time.
There be an opportunity to have on any of these, you know, like we were listing, something maybe pertaining to the agenda or something that's gonna bullet point to give somebody a summary of what they might be paying attention to this month coming.
We explored different routes of doing that. We actually looked at whole texting programs of how many we could text, whether we could alert somebody if something's near you, because as you mentioned, if there's something on the agenda, that's important to me if it's near, you know, and it might be something that someone will see and say, oh, you know what, I got dishes, I'm running the kids, that's across town, that's not an important item. That is to somebody, and we recognize that, so we want to try to give everybody that opportunity. What we found though is that we already do actually have a texting app in place, which is, what is it called there? No, I can't remember not the contact, I'm sorry. The Ready Monco, thank you. We found that we could add our notes, we could add our meeting alerts and stuff to that, and that's something that we did do. So people who are signed up for that can opt to receive only emergency alerts, such as road closures and, you know, down lines and whatnot, but you can also opt in to receive, here's an agenda. Now, unfortunately, I can't specifically say this, but our hope is that if somebody chooses to opt in, obviously they have a concern or a care for the township, they might at least look at it and say, no, not important, or, oh, wait a minute, that's important. And that's really what we're trying to achieve.
And that's what you should be putting on the portal or. As long as, you know, as well as the resident portal, you should be putting on that text alert. Because a lot more people are gonna be signing up for that.
Texting, yes.
Absolutely. And if it automatically comes in and they can just glance at it, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you what a lifesaver.
And the availability of those text alerts is again in the newsletters. But I think we're still not reaching everybody. I think like you two folks, if we poll the community and say, did you even know that these
Well,
text alerts are available?
Go to
The
these.
majority would not know it.
It's
But the people are polling.
just
Yeah.
sitting there somewhere, you're gonna definitely get a lot more.
And that's what we're hoping with word of mouth to get going as well. And I don't, you know, obviously we can do the work, but as a township, we're not going to go into groups and whatnot.
Sure.
But word of mouth, what we do, getting signs up at businesses, you know, encouraging. We feel that if one starts to do it, others might start to hop into it. It really kind of helps create a community feel. We think it's to be advantageous for a business as well. Hey, yeah, we care about our community. We're involved in that.
If you have an alert or a kind of like a Craigslist kind of thing for people that are putting up their properties for sale.
I don't know if that's something that we could, that's not something, that's
Cause you don't.
a little too. And for us. But for us, what,
I'm just thinking if someone in the town wanted to know, let somebody know, hey, you know what, let's add a little bit of extra publicity, I'm gonna put my property up, and then just put commercial or private. And then you can put the realtor's name. I don't think that's a big deal, then you know at least that property's for sale. Cause that Allen Farms next to Hennings, I'm not sure if that's for sale yet, or when it's gonna be sold, or, you know, it's not gonna have a good outcome, but I'm not quite sure what the status is.
Unfortunately, I'm not sure if that's
Can't do
something that
that?
would be. We're kind of,
Let's-
we have. Yeah. So then, that applies.
So I know what's going on, not to have to go into realestate.com and have to specifically look at my county and my street and my neighborhood and whatever, I just go into. You know.
It still offers great things to explore into the future as well. That's
So it's not a secret,
it.
right? I
And
mean,
it-
you know,
And
We
again,
don't know.
yeah, we don't. Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Right,
it just would be nice to have some kind of an idea.
and I think it goes into this with us, that the purpose, that one thing that we've all had, and from the beginning, and everybody's come on, is it's amazing that we have so much that our township does do. When we do have so much information on there, for example, even things we're not talking about, tickets, tickets, discounted events to museums. These are still the things that we want to get out there, you know, whether it's having a coloring contest or a photo contest, just to get people in here, get the people reading and to understand. These are some of the reasons we're trying to get that out there. But I do want to say, just to compliment the staff, that the things are on the website. They do a good job at that. And we're trying just to make sure people know, here it is, and here's how we get involved here. But I can't thank you enough for this input. I think, you know, I know we spent time on this, but this is something that, this is what we have been talking about. This is what we want to do. It's why we want to get involved in places. So I can't thank you enough for that. And believe me, I took some notes here. We have a great secretary. I was gonna say we have a great secretary. We have a new great secretary. But and we do have it recorded, and you know, I know that we go back and we look at these. I do that sometimes. I put it on the background the day before for all my meetings, just kind of reacclimate itself as well. So
Right.
these are wonderful. Thank you.
You-
Yes.
Good evening. So first thing I wanted to say was, as a participant in many of the remote
And just
meetings.
real quick, because I know I got the
Yep.
introduction beforehand, but your name again.
Sure, I'm Rob Carlson. My family and I recently moved into the Fernville area last year. And so one of the things in the remote meetings, when I'm on the Zoom, I know a lot of people will sit in their chairs.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, me putting the volume up and down constantly is difficult. So if you are a meeting chairman or work in this, I would encourage everybody to get up to the microphone if they can. This is on for them, right? Okay,
That's good.
so I wanted to briefly share a success story, I think, in terms of communication. So like I said, we moved here around the middle of last year. Did a lot of research in terms of real estate and areas to move into, and we had checked out all the websites of all the towns and all the school districts and everything. And the one thing that caught my eye was when we went to the Lower Salford website was the Ion development, very prominent in the old site. I don't know if it's still prominent in the new site, the little section, just the Ion development with the list of planning committee addresses, and you're nodding, so we moved in Covenant Lane.
Yes, the one that just lists all the upcoming
Yep.
projects. And all. I
So as we moved in, I come in, first thing I see, and I see 310 Covenant Lane. Right, and I'm like, okay, so now there's gonna be a big development in this church that's right across the street from us, like, how is this gonna affect me? And a couple of the other Ion development had some attachments to them in terms of planning, some maps, some designs, stuff like that. I didn't see anything for 310. Wrote in, right away, I get an email back, either from Holly or Patty, could have been either one, right? And I said, hey, I'd like any kind of background that you have on this. Like, we just moved in here. Like, I'd like to know what it is that the church is improving on their property so that we understand how it's going to affect kids, you know, the traffic on there and everything. And I got back just a stack of PDF documents, all the maps I could ever want, all the discussions that the planning committee had had with them. And even in the email was, here's all your documents, and this is when the meeting's going to be, and this is how you can be there. And, you know, that was the first time that I got to spend here in this room, which I really appreciated. And I think I may have sent you, Mr. Shelley, an email afterwards saying, these boards really know their stuff. Like, there wasn't anybody that was being steamrolled by anything that was being brought up by the petitioners or by the attorneys or the planners, like everybody was good, and I felt very confident at the end of that, you know, I asked for the information, I got it, it was there, it was accessible to me, and the township was responsive, and I just want to say how much I appreciate that and everything that's happening. And since we're doing generations, I'm a late generation Xer, so I am very, you know, terminally online, but, you know, the way that the website is set up, and even now, I really do appreciate it as an accessible tool for myself. So thank you for that.
Rob, remind me again, your request for that information, was that a phone call or?
So that was an email,
Okay.
and then I had to do a right to know. So that was a bit of a road bump for me, like, you know, I understand the logic and the reasoning behind that, but at the same time, it's like they could have been posted on the website. I'm not gonna go into the logistics, but if anything would stop somebody else in that process, it would have been, you know, hey, I'd like some information. Oh, here's the form you need to fill out. And I get it, right? But the more that can be out there and just, you know, one click away as a PDF,
Yeah.
that's the dream, right?
Thank you.
So that's it for me.
Thank you. And again, this is great information to know, or at least something too. I know one of the things that with the new website is we take information that we hear from you, we pass it on, and that's one thing that Kelly is, you know, willing to work with us very much with the design of it as well, you know, anything we have. So anything that suggestions you may have, feel free to reach out to us or, you know, to the staff as well. We definitely take them. Thank you. I appreciate all that. Again, we really appreciate the public comments. As a communications committee, we really rely on people's input, so we welcome that at any moment, and we hope to have you all back again, definitely, and send in more information too. Anything else we want to add here as well? Any other public comments? All right, moving on. Thank you very much. Next order of business is associate member proposals, a new order of business. As I sent an email to the committee, an associate member, as you can see, would actively participate in meetings, contribute ideas, fully engage without voting privileges. This is something that was actually brought up incidentally after one of our supervisor meetings when we had a list of all of our candidates. We had a lot of great candidates. And there was a small discussion where we realized with the park board and the communications committee, we kind of are more of, and they have the same roles. We're an advisory board and not non-advisory. We just recommend, you know, we say, hey, this is something that we might recommend that might help to the board of supervisors. And what we try to do is make that packet, that presentation as best we can. So the obvious questions, oh, what about this? What about this? We checks and balances, try to do it as best we can. Bottom line short is in the discussion, we feel, you know, I know that the other board members felt, and I've talked to each one of them individually about this as well after that, that's not a bad idea for something like the park board of communications committee. That would be something that the board could do. We could decide to appoint more of them, you know, how it would work as well. And this kind of started from the stem is, should we have more with the communication committee? One of the things I didn't feel that having more members might be appropriate right now. You know, it's what happens in the future. Yes, we have a lot of interest now. What's going to happen in the future, but that's when the idea of associate member came up. So I wanted to bring this up to the board, what it would, or to our committee here, and what an associate member would do. I actually did reach out to thank all of the people who applied, whether they, you know, in addition to Harry here as well. And then I reached out again to say, hey, if you have any interest in being an associate member, you know, it's something that we're going to talk about, just so I could add some feedback from them. Mr. Carlson responded. He was one who did apply, and he said he would be interested in being an associate member. So if we did have an associate member, they would have a seat at the table, active and everything, but they would not have an actual voting. It's, for me, I think I like the idea personally of having more ideas. The more ideas we have, the more people we hear from, the more we get going there. I like the idea of that. What we would have to decide as a committee, if it's something that we did do, is how many members we would have. You know, first, that would obviously help to see how much interest we have, and, you know, come up with then an amendment to our ordinance here. I did put a hypothetical amendment. I actually wrote it up here that everybody can look at. It's just based on, the only thing that we could change, and we would have to take a vote if it's something we could do, but I realized that if we did do this, it would be helpful to have a layout of what it would look like. And for everybody else there, you guys are well welcome to this as well. Pretty much what this does is it's an amendment to section 4 of our ordinance, membership and terms, to include the following changes regarding associate members. And I put hypothetically 3. That's a number we could change. We could decide on that. But it's important to decide what the associate members could do. Just Googling what other board members have, I found some other townships that have associate members. Most of them are actually for Parkwood. You see that. They're all generally the same. Voting rights. Associate members shall not have voting rights. Participation in decision making. Associate members' participation in decision making will be at the discretion of the committee chair. Pretty much means they're involved as much as possible. Delegation of responsibilities. I also put specific responsibilities and tasks for associate members will be delegated by the committee chair. This is just a standard, amendment here. As you can see, it's important to say this is a sample amendment. And if we did feel that this is something we want to go forward with, we would definitely get the Board of Supervisors feedback officially, and we would consult with our legal counsel to ensure it would comply with any applicable laws and regulations. But I wanted to just throw it out there for discussion. That's my end of it, and kind of have everybody's take on it. If it's something that we would, so if this is something we would do or agree with, I would reach out again to everybody and say, hey, first, we had 4 people. I think we have a list of the people on our list, and say, anybody want to be an associate member, What is everybody's thoughts on that?
I think it just,
I think it's a great idea. I mean, just to hear how anyone else is absorbing information alone, I think is. Check into it.
So I think it benefits us because these folks are then committing to being here, right? But Rob, I'm gonna ask you, since it sounded like you have expressed interest, right? Why would you want to be an associate member versus just an attendee? I mean, you still can, you obviously can still contribute, you can still be here, right? As an attendee, you can be here or not be here. As an associate member, you're pretty much committing to being here, which is great for us, but right? Why the draw for you?
I said the same to Mr. Shelley earlier. If there was participation as a associate member, or participation as a member of the public, I don't see a distinction, right? But I think there is a level of commitment that I personally would like to give, and I think other people would like to give, versus just being in the seats and being there for public comment. Whether there's a practical distinction or not, I don't think is as important as having some skin in the game, right? Having some obligation to be there regularly and participate and be part of any kind of communications of documents and things like that that might have a little more interest than somebody just walking into the meeting off the street.
Yeah, thank you.
Another thing to we could do involvement when we break down our resident involvement as well, which yes would help us, but understand that there would be, I think, a little more much more involvement than say an active participant where we have public comment. We do this. So what's your opinion as well? I think would be a little more involved there.
I think it's a great idea. My only request would be that we get a diversity of people, that we're not getting people the same ages,
Yeah.
younger people, only because for the comments that was made earlier, it would be good to learn how to reach other people.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, but I think it's a great idea.
No, I think it's a great idea. I don't have enough of my sea legs yet to sort of know if we have enough bolus of work for them to keep them engaged. That would be my concern of bringing on folks and then not necessarily being able to engage them so that they feel like the time is being well spent.
Yeah, that's a great point. We wouldn't want to have anybody come, and obviously, if anybody's here, even people observing, it's a time is very valuable, and I appreciate that greatly.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
This is just one of the many committees and boards that the township has. Would everything need to be, I mean, obviously, if we were going to be doing it for the communications committee, we would do it for the park, we would do it for planning. Are those, do you know what I'm saying? The planning commission is a very specialized.
Well, in the conversation, yeah.
And the park board has someone who comes all the time. She loves it. She loves being there. Her father is actually on the park board. So, I know that someday she will probably be on the park board, if one of our park board members ever leaves. She comes because she wants to be there. So I guess you could technically say she is an associate member because she gets into the minutes every single month. So, I guess if we were to put it in writing, create a definition for it, as all the legalese that townships do, would we do that for every board and every committee?
It's a great question. It's something that we specifically spoke with them. In fact, the chairman of the park board is also a supervisor.
Yes.
Mr. Kraus, and that guest was specifically mentioned as a great idea that he could feel, hey, you're here all the time. Why don't you sit over here if you want that option? We also, within talks, there were discussion, and I agree with this too, something like a planning commission and all is not so much an appropriate one that might necessarily have associate members because the voting is so important. There's a lot of voting involved. We really don't have much voting. We approve our minutes and this really everything is just a matter of, hey, do you think this is a good idea with our thing? And the park board similarly has those ideas. So we felt, at least for those two, how to put it together from what I just briefly spoke with our council is to have an amendment laid out, and I can share this with you as well, something like that. And as long as it meets the standards, it's something that the committee can vote upon. So if I say can't vote, this is something we could vote on, whether we wanted to do this. I personally would feel more comfortable once we vote on it, just to say to the board of supervisors, okay, guys, remember what we talked about? That's a thing now. How can we make this work? So this is new. So whether the park board would want to do something like that, that would be up to them. Other reasons I thought this would be good is our last few months, as you see in our minutes, our December meeting was canceled. We all have, we're all volunteering here and sometimes people can't make it. And, this way, if we have a meeting where we have just a quorum, we can still have more active participation rather than not to waste your time as a staff and not to waste anybody's time as well. So there were just other ideas here. But these are great points that everybody brings out. I think from what it sounds like, and again, it sounds like everybody is kind of on board that this would be a good idea. An important thing would be to then decide how many associate members would we want. Personally, if we have 5 people wanting to go, then it's easier to break down, but how many people do we have interest? We have one interest definitely that said they'd be interested. Now, to be fair, this associate part, I do use YouTube and stuff like that as well to help me write the original ordinance, to help me write this amendment as well, honestly. So I wanted to put it down just in case, but I didn't ask anybody until yesterday if they're interested in associate member, because this is something that we just kind of put together as the idea. But if we have responses back, how many numbers do we think would be appropriate? Would it be based upon the interest, or do we want to see only maybe 2 members? We don't want to get too crowded up here. Do we want 3? It's something that some of our, I think 7 is what the planning commission has, 7 members, right? So for comparison, they have 7 members, we have 5. We could do it with 2 if we have a lot of interest and I love the idea of having it for diversity there as well. We could do 3. Any thoughts?
Besides Mr. Paulson, how do we have a sense of what the interest is from the folks that had applied but didn't?
Haven't heard back from everybody yet regarding associate. As I said, that was the added new thing, but we do have, I took a picture on my phone, my other notes of the number, because I was prepared for that question. Here we go. Right before I left, we had for the communications, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's double check. 1, 2.
Kevin.
Yes. Yes, I thought it was in front of us. There we go. I knew I saw that. It's the same thing I have a picture of, but there it is there. 7. There's 8 and Harry, you have. I don't think Harry would be on there. Well, either way, we have that many, so 7 or 8 there. And again, I don't know who would be interested in serving, because again, John, you made a great point. I love the question you asked, Mr. Carlson. Is this beneficial for you? Yes, it's hugely beneficial for us. We get more input, we have more ideas, and a little bit of the weight of the work taken off our shoulders. So whether everybody wants to make that commitment, I think it's worthwhile, seeing what kind of feedback we get. But is there a certain number that people would want to see, 2 or 3?
And I think two is definitely the minimum number. for
I
sure.
think so as well. I think one.
Five feels like too many. And
Yes,
three
yes,
feels
wait.
just right to me.
Goldilocks.
I'm good.
If we have the interest, I think would be a good number. Now, of course, I'll wait and see what we hear back from, but I think the next step then could be to. I guess we can make a motion that we can, well, before I make a motion that we should look into amending and adding an associate, well, we should decide, definitely, let's try for three and see if there's interest, so. We could make a motion to, I guess we have a motion to consider at least to pass to the Board of Supervisors, and if there's any comments on this, everybody can take a look at this as well. If there's any comments we can add before we,
My one comment is
Yeah.
that it's section 3, not 4. I believe.
three.
These sections to be amended.
Membership terms. Yes, section 3 is a good point there.
That is the only thing. The rest of it looks good.
Perfect.
I have a question. The paragraph on participation in decision making.
Yeah,
Associate members' participation in decision making will be at the discretion of the committee chair. I don't understand the participation in decision making separate from not already having a right to vote. So it sounds almost like the chair can exclude them from certain discussion regardless of the fact that they can't vote on the outcome of that discussion. But we could theoretically say, well, for this topic, we don't want your input.
I agree with that, and in fact, that was one that I had specifically found on another one, the other option I had then as well is to take that out completely and just have that the voting rights, associate members shall not have voting rights. That works for me, if that's okay. That was, and again, these, and that's why I have the asterisk with these. Those asterisks and how many we have with the other asterisks are things that we can add to it. So that was the other thing. I'm glad you brought that up. What we want to, I'm okay crossing off the participation and delegation, really, and just keeping the voting rights.
I'm okay with the delegation.
As I say, I'm okay with delegation as well.
Paragraph,
Participation
that
paragraph.
makes sense to me.
Gotcha. You're right, because we don't, that, so then this delegation, specific responsibilities and tasks for associate members. Yeah, because that's kind of what we do anyway, it's the same thing.
Essentially, this way, the associate member has essentially all of the same capability and interest and activity that we do, except for the final vote.
That's what it was told, the original idea came to me from one of the other board members, supervisor said, they've seen it in other townships, it's similar to that, and that's exactly what it is, that's pretty much the gist of it. Upon researching, you find all sorts of variables for associate members, but I like that as well. So just to clarify, we can then, I can print this out officially and present this to them with the changes of amend section 4, take out participation in decision-making, and that's all. Any other changes that we see here? That's good. So based.
Just one
Please,
slight
sir.
mod, because there's
Go for it.
another in B,
Mhm.
it references section 4 again. So I
Yes.
think we just need to
All
make
the
sure
section
that
4 should be.
find and replace 4 with 3 everywhere.
That's the only kicker to section 3, but all the things, everything else, I think, are good.
They're next to each other in the keywords.
They
so
are,
it's,
I like that. All right, so do we have a motion then to present this amendment to go further? When I go further, I mean, present this to the board, and if the board agrees with it, then to go to the next steps, which would be possibly to go to our manager, to go to our legal, just make sure everything's okay. But do we have a motion to pass this on for the next steps? To have an amendment for membership in terms of the communications committee?
I'll make a motion to present the amendment.
We have a second?
A second, sorry.
All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you. Good.
Because is it an ordinance?
That would be our first vote, yes, so our first. This would be,
Because
This would be an amendment to the ordinance, so that would be a resolution to amend the ordinance, correct? I'll bring it to you as well. This is an amendment to,
It does say it was. That was.
yeah, I think I did get an original. No, this is not. This would be the amendment that we would present to the president.
Yeah, it's not.
2020-29.
Within the minutes, please add resolution number and the
2025 dash.
potential to the budget.
Okay, thank you. And just in the copy that you have, will be correct, section 3, and took out the participation. Okay, so I will pass this on to. That's all gonna be number 3. Down there and up here, right here. Full amendments. Just stay here, there's another spot right above the membership and terms there. All right, and thank you, Mr. Carlson, and we'll reach out to anybody else who submitted and see if we have more interest in that as well. Any questions on that? Very good. Moving along, and I think we'll move right along, just another old business we have here is review of township website new resident guide. Yes,
Just since we are a little bit over,
just
a quick poll, does everybody want to continue or does anyone have?
good question. And before, just to add to that, if we did continue even briefly, I think if we do continue, we can, the next step is just assigning to make sure these are good. That would be the continuation. I think that's would be the important thing. But
Everybody,
I'm
everybody
I'm
okay?
okay for this.
night is clear for me.
Okay with you guys? Well, continue. Very good. All right. Thank you, Don, for that. Our old business, and typically our meetings run about an hour, so that's why we definitely want to make sure. Our old business is our Lower Salford Township quick reference guide, a review of our new campaign. So one thing we established kind of, and Harry catch you up as well, at the end of last year, and unfortunately we didn't have a December meeting, but we want to go back. This is version 2, so this is our second year of having this. What we want to do is we always go back to make sure we have all the same phone numbers, all the same contact information, especially with some of these organizations that volunteer. People such as, you know,
Wait, so I'm sorry, can I interrupt?
Please.
We're not doing the new resident website. Number 6, we're talking about 7A,
no,
but that's the,
I'm sorry.
that's not what. That's not what-
I understand what you're saying. I saw the same. It says old business
Yeah,
review
old
township website. new guide.
Which would be review of the township website, which is the, not the QRT.
7A.
But you're talking about 7A, I think.
And review of township resident new web map, township website new resident guide, my apologies. I do have the same thing, but we are actually on the new resident guide, which is. this
Okay.
one. Thank you.
So that's what we're at.
This is what we are on right now. Sorry about that. So our new resident guide, and actually, as we discussed this a little earlier, one thing I want to mention first, John, thank you for this layout. As before, John had a layout of our old website of an idea that we could have for a welcome page. And now we have our new layout here. So this went away here. So again, John put out this website or sample. And what this is we wanted to have, as we discussed about this earlier, a welcome page so that somebody who goes to new to our township, going to our website for the first time might think, oh, new resident, let me click that. And as some members of the audience discussed earlier, there they can find everything that a new resident would want to find. Here's where I can find how to sign up for this, sign up for that. So John, if you can even tell us, it looks like you have the same thing as before, broken down into
Well,
the new one. Cool.
I think the page that is listed as a new resident page on the website, it is a great reference page, right? But it's not what we had talked about in terms of a targeted new resident page, right? I mean, if you look at what we had drafted
This is the only one that we have.
versus what's there now as a new resident page, I wouldn't call what's there now a new resident page. I would call it more of a, you know, an index to lots of information, but it's not a targeted new resident page. I mean, what we had talked about in terms of a new resident page was what specifically does a new resident, when they move in, really need to know or want to know about? And only putting that on the page, so it was very targeted, very focused, right? The current new resident page is a long list of everything, right? And it's a great central index. I mean, I think it should be there. I just don't think it's what we envisioned as a
Yeah.
targeted new resident page.
That's a great point. And back up with that, we literally had a check of boxes. We like this one. We really like this one. We took votes on some person was not, some people like more than others, but we did try to not overcrowd it. And I think that's what you're saying, keep it simple to the facts there.
Right. I mean, some of the other townships that we looked at, I mean, that was one of our
Yeah,
things we looked at was some of them were, it was just too much information. I think, that's something we, decided on is just too much information, right? And we wanted to not have a new resident have to wade through all of that.
so is this the current page now?
Exactly,
or-
it's, I think. I think I ended up printing it across 2 pages.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if you set this up as a sample so we could check it out or.
No.
So you make for good discussion here. So I guess what we want to discuss is what do we want to see that page look more like, or at least recommend to go more like, and what we want to do is try to keep it more on the realms of this.
And I think, given the time again.
Yeah, I
think
don't
we
wanna
have
spend too
bring it
much on it.
Back to the meeting, but I think we should.
Yeah.
Look at what's there now, look at what we had envisioned as a focused new resident page and provide feedback. So. Should might be able to do.
That's something that I can definitely give this to you, as well, Grace, to see as well. Just for anybody in the audience, it's simple things not to hold up, but maps, the history, park locations, quick reference guide, contacts, links, trash collection. These are things, we don't have trash collections, but you residents, this is one of the things that people are looking for right away. That's a great point on that as well. Yeah, I think you make a good point. It's something that we should go on, maybe say for next time as well. We can check up on that. Any other comments to that? Thank you for bringing that up. Now we move to, read it correctly, the township quick reference guide. And the township quick reference guide, what we want to do with this is we go back and make sure that, as I was saying, we have different volunteers. We want to make sure all the contacts are up to date. What we've done in this past is just split it up amongst our group. I would add something now that I thought of tonight, thanks to the recommendations of our audience. I think as we split this up of who's going to contact to make sure they're still good, we should push if they would like any information from our township. I know with this last month, I was going to get to with our residential facilities, just to sum that up so we don't get to that as well. And it does fit here. As much, anything we have in our vestibule, they would love to have in theirs, because not everybody can make it to the township building. Not everybody has the means to get here, has the time. They might have transportation, but they might not have time to do that between running kids, running whatever they're doing, or just running errands. So obviously, we want to maybe even ask everybody to give this to, hey, would you like to have a copy of our business letter that went out to our businesses, hang up a QR code, whatever they might want to do. And if that's okay with, as we assign this, as we call and follow up, I just want to check with the committee if that's something we want to add to that, just maybe ask them if they'd be interested in help promote what we have on our township, have a little conversation. Would everybody be okay with that? And again, not everybody signed up for this group, signed up to talk to people, and that's perfectly okay. So if you don't feel comfortable with that, we can definitely pass on that. I just wanted to make sure we discuss that first.
So we would be asking them specifically what?
Yeah, what I would do, so perfect example, I don't want to give you necessarily a script, but I would say, hey, we just wanted to check, we have you on our township quick reference. Wanted to check back, make sure these contacts are okay. And as I'm looking for this, some of these, we might have to do a little homework, it might not be as easy, like Letter Rock Golf Club. That's something that already has stuff information with us, but but if we can find somebody, I suggested that point, or somebody in there that we can talk to in addition. So I'll say, just double check these. But if you can take the opportunity to double check, and if there's a contact you could reach out to and ask them, personally, is there any information? We're just trying to get the word around. We're finding out that people are coming to our meetings and they are not aware of all the information we have. And we just want to know if you could help share that. We're sharing your information as well. Would everybody be okay with that? So moving on, I think it's important to assign that. We have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, well, 5 of us, so someone's gonna get one more, but that'll work.
One less.
One less. We'll start, I can take, Harry, are you involved? We actually should say, if anybody's involved with any of these organizations directly, that would be this connection. Would you, anybody just taking a look, would like to reach out to anybody specifically?
There's none that I have, any connection
I am,
directly, so in
Okay.
terms of assignment, it wouldn't matter which ones I'm assigned.
does anybody have anything to sign them? I do, I am actually officially now a member of the Heckler Plains Folklife Society. Do have contacts there I can reach out to. I'll be happy to take that one. If anybody has any other,
All right, so just splitting them up, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2. So it, Kevin, can you take Heckler's, Harleysville Fire and Freedom Valley Medical?
that's perfect.
Those 3,
Heckler, Harleysville, and Freedom Valley.
okay? And just going across, Harry, can you do the first 3?
Not a problem.
And Terry, the second 3? I'll do the third 3.
Third,
You've got the fourth 3, and Jess, you've got the last 2.
if the Attorney General would like to put information on our thing, that'd be wonderful. Yeah, that's
Should,
perfect.
should we? all
I
be
mean, the
saying
last one is
same-
just our website.
Yeah, should we all be saying the same thing? With these organizations.
I'll figure it's still right.
Real quick, and Terry's question was, should we all be saying the same thing? This is just open for discussion. I know for me, I'll probably just say, and again, say, you know, one thing I wanted to mention. We have had people, we're trying to reach as many residents as possible, as most people know. And say, we just wondering if you'd like any information. We have everything from apps, you know, to just a QR code that you could have at your establishment or whatever it might be. So I don't think there is an exact script. I think that's what we're just saying, as long as somebody's comfortable having a conversation. And if not, you know, feel free to let us know. Do that as well. I think,
We just gave Jess the 3 on the side here to confirm too.
oh, very good. It's good. The numbers change. The numbers do change there. Yeah. All right. I think it's safe to say now that, again, I moved things around here and get this back here. I think we had a very good meeting so far here. Our new business that we would have then with this, besides the quick reference guide, which is important, recommendation on residential facility follow-ups. As I told some of you offhand, we did do that actually before our last meeting. There are a few that have spaces that do have common areas. There are others that do not have common areas, and what this would be for having meetings in their locations. But again, everybody is all for just having information. I emphasize the communications email, that would be the best way to contact us. So people seem to be excited about that, and I'm happy following up with that even more so next time, if that's okay with everybody as well.
Yeah.
And then finally on our thing, there was some discussion last year, at the start of the year, I have my notes on our time for meetings. Now, the Board of Supervisors does vote on the time starts, but since this is our first meeting, we could always bring it back to the board if we wanted to do an earlier meeting based upon the length of time. Our regular board meetings start at 7:30, and I think that was the reason, the rationale we originally wanted this one at 7:30. If it's it's okay for me this night, it's 4 at each time, but I just wanted to have a brief discussion if a better time works for the majority of the board, their committee. We do have a different committee than we had when we started here as well.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of leaning to as well, because I know we also have our meetings at 7:30 in the meeting. So we're exploring whether to have these at an earlier time for the staff as well. I don't know if it's easier to do 7 or 7:30, and it's just up there in the air.
I think the merger is better.
I think so too.
What location it's at, they always ask. I think after a while, they just start thinking, okay, so.
I think that's a great point. I like that as well, but again, I would be willing to consider if it's easier for somebody, but as long as everybody's okay with 7:30, I like it. Officially stick with 7:30. Thank you for that.
no change.
Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have a very effective meeting. We got a lot of great input that we will definitely, and we promise we will use that input. That is stuff that we have great brainstorming sessions that lead into residential portals and other great ideas that we might have as well.
Get some of that information.
Please, and don't go anywhere yet till we get you those links as well. Make sure that you will have them and we will reach out then. I'll get this information to the board about associate members. And again, I know the consensus was it's a great idea. The more information obviously we have, the more beneficial it is for our township. I just want to say again, thank you all for putting your trust in me, and I want to thank you all for your time, for being here. I think we have a lot of great ideas. We've done a lot, and I look forward to the more stuff we can do as well. Thank you to Holly, thank you to Grace for coming here as well, and thank you to all our input from that public as well. Please encourage people to come, please encourage people to
With that, I'll make a motion.
very good. Yes, all in favor?
Uh,
All right, thank you very much.